So welcome. For those of you who are new to teaching co-op, we have a brand new co-op promotional video, which was launched in May. The intended audience is for students and families, but it can be shared with anyone wanting to learn more about co-op. In the video, you learn about high school co-op, what it's all about, and how students can benefit. I would like to say that that the presentation or the slide deck will be shared with everyone after the presentation. So you don't, obviously you're encouraged to take notes if you wish, but you will have access to the entire slide deck. One thing that co-op teachers do is you help promote your course. And so the video can be shared again with families and with students when you go into classrooms to promote your course. You can be showing the video, you can be sharing it on the school's social media accounts so that folks can see what co-op is. The other piece is you could be using it when you're trying to get community hosts or employers involved in co-op so they can learn more about what co-op is. Okay, the co-op curriculum was updated in the last year. It was piloted in 2018-19, and we had full implementation for the 2019-20 year. It is a streamlined curriculum with a competency skill approach. This competency approach speaks to the attitudes, skills, and knowledge that prepare learners to successfully participate in lifelong learning and life work transitions. There are three key pieces to the new curriculum. We have outcomes, which are, which have been updated, and this is what the students need to achieve. We have the concepts. So what do students need to know in order to achieve the outcomes? So these are the key pieces of knowledge. And then we have the indicators, and the indicators are the ways in which learners can show their learning. The skills, concepts, and indicators inform teachers on what they should be focusing on. It's important to note, as we dig a little deeper into the curriculum, that the indicators are not a specific checklist, but they're used to guide instruction and learning experiences for the students. So the co-op curriculum has two resource documents that support it. We have the curriculum guide, and we have at-a-glance documents. The curriculum guide provides the course overview. It talks about delivery and processes, student readiness and eligibility, and it also talks about or states the outcomes. The at-a-glance document provides the snapshot of the outcomes and the concepts and the indicators and the guiding questions. There is a tutorial video that is available that shows how you would navigate an at-a-glance document. That is something that you can go back in after or later at a later time and look at. So again, the at-a-glance document provides a snapshot, while the curriculum guide offers the more in-depth information about the delivery of the course and the content. And we'll take a deeper look into both of these in a few slides. So what does the co-op curriculum look like? Well, first of all, co-op, or cooperative education, is available at grade 10, 11, and 12. Students, it is a PSP academic course. It's scheduled in the timetable like any other course that's offered at the high school. There is coordination time, or FTE, provided for schools who have 10+ students. So these are for non-O2 students, co-op students. The O2 program is provided FTE, or teaching equivalency, to help support the delivery of co-op as well. So if you're a non-O2 school delivering co-op and you have at least 10 or more students in the co-op course, then you'll be given FTE to help support the delivery of co-op. There has been a lot of communication in the last few years with the REDs, with program directors and principals around the role of the cooperative education teacher. It is unlike any other course that you will teach. And because of that, that is why that additional staffing is there, because there are requirements that relate to risk management and due diligence that take more time than if you were teaching another course. So what does the curriculum look like? As mentioned previously, we have skills and competencies. The co-op curriculum has 6 outcomes that come with indicators. The outcomes are related to the following themes. We have a theme, first outcome is related to exploring options. Then we have who am I? We have an outcome around safety, outcome around readiness. Then we have an outcome that's called on the job, or it's related to being on the job. And then moving forward, so the next steps. So once a student has completed their co-op placement, what are they going to do next? Okay, so moving forward and reflection. We have concepts and guiding questions. So for each outcome, there are concepts, and each concept, you're provided with a number of possible guiding questions. The guiding questions that are provided they're not all mandatory. The concepts obviously are required in order to achieve that outcome. The questions are there. A lot of teachers, the feedback from teachers, from the pilot teachers and the teachers who delivered last year, was that the guiding questions help drive classes and instruction and learning experiences, so they really appreciated them. But obviously, there may be more questions that you could be asking, or you can develop your own questions if you like. Concepts such as labor market information, financial literacy, workplace health and safety, rights and responsibilities. Each outcome, like I mentioned, has a number of concepts, and they're all indicated for you in the both the curriculum guide and also the at-a-glance document. We have pre-placement instruction, which is a requirement for cooperative education. So we used to call this is the piece that's delivered in class before the students go out to their co-op work placement. Usually takes 6 to 8 weeks, depends on the students or the student individual. Each student's a little different. Some students take a little longer to get the paperwork done or to complete their assignments. But if you were starting to offer co-op in September, then usually students are starting to be placed by Thanksgiving. The curriculum has a strong focus on assessment for learning. So the key piece with co-op is that students are continually growing and skills are developing. And so, what skills students have at the beginning of co-op obviously have grown and have been impacted as they go through the experience. So the experience of the pre-placement instruction, what they're learning there, but then also when they actually get a chance to go out to work. We have clearly defined mandatory ongoing weekly instruction and reflection. So what that means is that once the students have completed the pre-placement instruction and they have been placed in their work placement, their co-op placement, and they're out to work, then the expectation is that they're meeting a minimum 1 classroom session per week with their co-op class. So the idea is that through that assessment for learning and through that ongoing reflection and growth piece, students have opportunities to come back together and talk about and share their experiences. They are updating their learning plans, so that happens during that time. They're reflecting on their co-op placements, and they're also completing other course requirements that have not been finished. So you're getting students' workplace ready during the pre-placement instruction, but there will be some pieces that you don't go in as deep as you would like to, and so you're able to come back to that and do more work with that during that ongoing instruction time. The co-op placement is 80 hours, so students are at work with their community host or their employer for 80 hours. The expectation is that the co-op teacher is checking in a minimum of 4 times during the co-op placement. 2 of these contacts must be on site. The other 2 can be through a phone call, can be a text, email, but 2 contacts must be on site. So you're checking with the community host to see how things are doing. In an ideal situation, you're able to do those contacts and make those contacts when the student is there. That is not always possible, but that is a requirement, and that's something that you will record, and we have some paperwork. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we do have a tracking form where you keep track of those check-ins. Another thing to mention here is that the pre-placement assessment that happens, so before a student is placed with a community host or with an employer, there is a pre-placement assessment that must be completed. So going in to make sure that, doing a check to make sure that this is a good experience, will be a worthwhile experience for the student. It is a safe place to be. And that particular pre-placement assessment does not count as one of those contacts or check-ins. And then the last piece that I'm going to speak about is the pre-placement classroom refresher. And this is for students who are taking multiple co-op credits. So we have students who are in O2 who are required to have 3 co-op credits for graduation for their O2 certificate. We also have non-O2 co-op students who choose to take multiple co-op credits. If a student is taking more than 1 co-op credit, they're an additional credit, then they are required to do the pre-placement classroom refresher. This is individualized per student. It takes, time. There's not a time attached to it. It takes, it can take longer for certain students depending on what they're doing. So for instance, if you have a student who had originally done a co-op placement, let's say with a mechanic, and then when they were on their placement, so you had them all set up for the mechanic, they had, any kind of safety certifications or whatever they needed, they were there and they had completed them. But as they went through, if they went through the placement and they realized, okay, this really isn't what I'm interested in now, I'm interested in electrical or welding or something else, then during that pre-placement classroom refresher, you would prepare them or do some research around what it is to be a welder, what requirements is it to be a welder, what kind of safety certifications do they need now, as well as updating the co-op forms. Every time there's a new co-op placement, a student would update their resume and their cover letter, and they would also begin a new learning plan. So we have a question, and it's a good question. So the question is there an official word on fall placements, and what will happen if students can't go out? So right now, if we are in response 1 or 2, the direction is that co-op placements will happen. If we move to response number 3, which is full at-home learning and virtual, then co-op placements will not happen. They will happen as they did in the spring. So if you have signed up for the blended learning this afternoon, we're going to talk a little bit about how that can happen. The other piece is that there may be some areas or parts of Nova Scotia where students, where co-op teachers are going to struggle to find placements. In some cases, community hosts or employers are going to, they will appreciate having some extra support, and they have their safety procedures in place, and so they will welcome having students there to help them in their daily work or in their daily lives. But what may have to happen is in some areas we may have to look at other ways in order to get those hours, or do a combination of reducing the number of hours and also adding other skill building activities or learning experiences to get the students the hours. We will deal with that when the time comes. There'll be resources available for teachers if we get to, or schools are in a position where they get to the response number 3 or scenario 3. And we have already started working on that. And again, if you're in the blended learning session this afternoon, we're going to share, we'll be sharing information on that. Know that we're working on it. Right now, the communication around how this can look is not, there hasn't been a decision made yet whether or not that's a regional decision, a regional and board decision where you would work with your youth pathways consultant and come up with some, whether it's a one-pager or some kind of a communication that will go out to the employers. But we still have time. This is the nice thing. We still have a little bit of time to work from this. And the other piece is that we're aware that, with the fluidity of the back to school plan and depending on how certain areas are where they are with COVID, there may be, certain schools or certain areas that students are out as is, and other areas where they're not going to be able to be out. So the team at the Career Pathways team is working on it. And they'll be working with your Youth Pathways consultants, and we'll have more direction on that as we get closer to the fall. So with the plan just being announced last week, we already had to go in and make a few changes with our blended learning resources that we have. But we will definitely have something available or have some direction around that. Okay, throughout the classroom instruction, obviously there needs to be ongoing assessment, and advanced consideration needs to be given to what sufficient evidence of learning looks like. Learning targets need to be explicitly set, including clear criteria for success. Beth Woodford-Collins is offering a session this morning at 11 o'clock called Assessment for O2 and Co-op. So that might be something that you might be interested in attending. And also the reflective practice. And I think I mentioned this already with that ongoing class time, or those weekly classroom times where students have an opportunity to work on their learning plan, to discuss, share, and problem solve. A great opportunity to talk about, well, this happened at my work placement, and then here's how I handled it, how would you have dealt with it, and having those class meetings or those class discussions. Yeah, so make sure I'm not missing anything. Also, in the resources section or workshop that's happening next, and we're all connected, all of us have worked together to plan these sessions. There will be, Kim will be sharing some resources to help with reflection, as well as if you're going to the forums, they'll be sharing places that you can find that kind of information, as well as assessment. So again, students having opportunities again for that ongoing instruction and assessment and the reflective practice. I'm not going to read everything that's on the slide, but again, making sure that students, that assessment for learning, and making sure that students have that authentic descriptive feedback as they're moving through their process. Again, remembering that the development of co-op is all about developing skills. So we're looking at employability skills and transferable skills. And so sometimes students, and this may happen even more this fall, sometimes students may not necessarily get the placement, what in their minds, what their ideal placement is, what they really want to explore. But it's important that they understand that any placement or co-op placement that they get, they're able to develop skills that they can transfer to other areas or other careers as they move forward. And so that's really important. Okay, we're going to have a quick look at the access points for the curriculum documents and sample learning experiences and resources that I had mentioned earlier. Again, Kim is offering a session at 9:30 that will go deeper into the available resources. But we do have a website, a Google site for cooperative education, as well as a Moodle. And on the website, we do have all of the at-a-glance documents, so the grade 10, 11, and 12. Now, I'm going to be, I need to be upfront here, that for cooperative education, for grade 10, 11, and 12, the outcomes are the same. The only thing that is different for the different grade levels would be the depth of skill development. So the way the new curriculum has been designed around competencies and then specifically looking at skills, there's a skills continuum that explains what skills look like or skill development looks like at each grade level. And really, grade 10 and 11 are very similar, those skills, but the grade 10 might look a little different. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly go in here, but we'll pull up a grade 11 document. Let's see if there's any questions. Yeah. Okay, so the grade 11 document, I just want to show you what it looks like. Okay, so at a glance, here's our first outcome. So learners will evaluate potential education options and career pathways. So looking at, like, what's out there, what's available. And then there's a rationale that's given. And then we have the competencies that are connected to this particular outcome. We have the indicators. And again, as mentioned before, the indicators are not necessarily a checklist, but they're used to guide instruction and learning experiences. But if you were to go through and make sure that each of the indicators was covered, then you would then the understanding would be that the students probably would have achieved the outcome. But again, students or teachers are using their professional judgment in determining what they're going to use or what learning experiences they're going to provide with their students. And then we have the concepts. So for instance, we have education options and career pathways as a concept, and then we have some guiding questions that fall underneath that concept. And again, the questions are there to help you. They're suggestions, they're not mandatory, and they help frame your learning experiences for the students. Now, what's different at each grade level is that when you get to the bottom of the at-a-glance documents, as well as in the curriculum document, it talks about skills. So the skills, the two skills that we have here are evaluate and investigate. So the definition of those skills, or what's required for those skills, change as you move along the continuum for grade levels. So there might be a difference. Again, most of the skills are very similar at grade 11 and 12. They haven't changed, or they're described identically. But the ones at grade 10 may look a little different. So, but the curriculum document looks the same, other than the skills, at the grade 10, 11, and 12 level. We have on the website, we have the curriculum document, which is the PDF. And again, it's framed that it's Cooperative Education 10 to 12. I'm not going to get into that because we don't really have a lot of time. And then there's additional resources. And again, I'll just quick little, so we have, there are a number of places that you're going to be able to find your co-op forms. And so you can go to the website and they're there. There's also a link directly to the Moodle, and then some other documents around curriculum renewal and online resources. So then we get into the cooperative education forms, and we have a number of forms that are required for the delivery of cooperative education. There's an expectation that all regions and CSAP will use the same forms for delivery of co-op. Okay, there was a time a few years ago that regions had developed their own forms, but these forms, they're required, they're mandatory, and they're consistent across the province. They were streamlined during the renewal, and they've been reviewed by DEECD and the school insurance program for safety purposes. So the expectation is that you'll be using these forms. So when you look at this list, it can be daunting. But they have been updated, and some things they've been updated to be inclusive. There's certain information, like the information that we're requesting is information that we're allowed to ask for. Redundancy, it used to be that on every form you would have a student's name and their email and their address or whatever. That's done. We have places that that information is found. And again, if you attend Jill Flynn Camo's session this morning at 10:30, she's going to spend a full half hour looking specifically at the forms. The one thing I did want to mention is that with the pre-placement assessment, we constructed or contracted out, and we have some videos now to help support, especially if you're a new teacher, what does pre-placement assessment look like? And I assume that Jill will share a little bit more about this, but we do have 3 videos that show how a pre-placement assessment is completed on a culinary placement, in an office setting, and also in an industrial setting. Learning plans. Learning plans are a key piece to cooperative education. So this is almost like our IPP, because what happens in co-op is it's individualized. It looks different for every student based on what career they're exploring. And so it is developed collaboratively by the teacher, the student, and the community host. It includes the setting of goals and reflections and progress on the development of the employability skills. Okay, and so this is something that, again, you may hear a little bit more from Jill, and in the resources section, there are some resources to support this on the Moodle, and we're currently working with some teachers from who obviously delivered co-op last year, who have agreed to share some completed learning plans from their students, so we can upload those to the Moodle, and so those will be in place for September. Obviously names of students or anything that would indicate, you know, where the students come from will be gone. But so we will have some examples of that for you. The portfolio is a living document that grows and changes along with the students learning throughout their instruction and while on their co-op placement. The portfolio is like the capstone project for co-op. It's the place marker. It holds the learning, and it showcases growth and skill development. And often what happens is students are motivated when they see their achievements and how much learning has been captured in their portfolio. So this is just a quick little, you know, what is portfolio? There's a link that's here that provides a ton of resources around reflective practice. Each region in CSAP has a youth pathways consultant whose role is to support you in the delivery of co-op. Please reach out to them if you're new to teaching co-op. I'm sure that many of them have already reached out with you or plan to in the next few weeks. So,
Kathy.
Yeah.
Just one question here before we end. Is everything hosted on each site, the site and the Moodle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the only outstanding question. Yeah. No,
things are in multiple places. What we've learned is that some people are most comfortable in the Moodle. Some people don't. They don't like the Moodle. They prefer to go to the Google site. So at this point, we have things in both places. Okay, thank you, folks, and I hope to see you, I guess, in the next session with Kim, looking specifically at the resources. So thank you very much. Have a great day.